Hi viewers, let's take a look at a very common SEA problem that we meet. And this type or topic is common intervals or common gaps. And what does it mean? It means common meaning it's repeated. So we have situations where we have gaps that are repeated over and over and the gaps are the same distance apart. Say for example in this one we have posts. The posts are the objects and between each post there's a gap, and that gap keeps repeating over and over because there are more and more posts. So let's take a look at the question part of this problem. Calculate the distance between any two posts that are next to each other. Now, to do that, we would need a bit of information. We need to know how long that line is, that the fence. We need to know the entire length of the fence. Let's highlight that fence. And next, we need to share up that fence or divide. We need to divide that fence into the number of gaps that there are. So if we can figure out the number of gaps on that fence, we could go ahead and get our answer as the distance between the posts. All right. So that's it. We just need those two things. We need the length of the fence and the number of gaps from A all the way around to B. So let's work out the fence part. The fence part is actually the purple line that I just traced. So I need to figure out the length of this side, the length of this side, and the other two sides I have. Now, the length of this side is pretty easy. I could see it's right over on the other side here. It's saying 63. So I'm going to just write 63 meters. The length of this side is not so easy because it's not exactly 108 on this side. It's actually shorter than 108, but it's shorter than 108 by just this little piece. This is the piece is missing, or else it would be 108. So that's 36 there. So let's remove 36 from 108, and we'll see what's left behind. That gives us 72 meters. So this part is 72. Let me just fix this. Now that we have all the lines, we can now measure the length of the fence, and that's going to be halfway through the sum. Okay, so I got 306 when I measured everything going all the way around. So, okay, let's deal with the gaps, all right? So we can tell there's a very, very important clue that tells us that there is a gap. There is a post at A. Let's put a post right there. And there's a post at B. Let's put another post right there. And that is very helpful because I want to tell you a secret about these interval questions that you probably didn't know. There are three different types of intervals that you could meet. There are situations where you have an object like a post on either end. There are situations where you would have no objects on either end, so there'll actually be a gap right here and a gap right here, and there are posts all in the middle. All right. And then there are situations where you would have an object on one end and a gap on one end. Or you may have a gap on one end. All right, the space here is a gap and an object right on the other end. All of these situations tell us something about the number of objects and number of gaps. Finding the number of gaps or posts in these types of problems can be very tricky. I will place a video link that can take you to a simple explanation on how you can do that with ease. But for now, I'll just go on and solve the problem. We have objects on both ends. There's a pole on this end, a post on this end. So that means they're going to be, if there are 35 posts, there are going to be 34 gaps. There's going to be one more object and gap. So we now have our gaps, that's 34. And so we can now work out the problem. We have 306 meters, and we're going to be dividing that by 34 gaps. And if your working is good enough, you should have gotten 9 meters. And that 9 represents the distance between any two posts, one after the other.